speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, hopefully you're going to enjoy this video. This is going to be a video about my Flayed 1 themed army. It's going to be about the tactics behind it, how the list works, and hopefully give you some inspiration maybe to think about your own themed list, maybe how to go about making a theme list. So, first of all, of course, it's a Flayed 1 army and we have 60 Flayed 1s. That's the maximum amount, so they're the elite's choice. We have 20 in each unit. Now, I'm running this army using the current Necron Codex. I don't want to go to the Forge World thing where there are troops, etc. I just want to make this work using the current Codex. Now you may have seen my Necron Learning Curve video on the Flayed 1s, where basically I pretty much say that Flayed 1s are, well, let's face it, pretty much useless. And it was actually that video that inspired me to make this army, believe it or not. But yes, Flayed 1s, just a group of 10, really aren't going to do a great deal. But en masse, and with the right tactics behind them, there's hope for Flayed 1s. And I really like the model, and that's one reason for doing the army. Okay, so first of all, you'll notice there'll be a huge investment to your models that you want when it comes to a themed army. So in this particular army, I'm spending 780 points on Flayed 1s. I'm going to be looking at doing a 2,000 point list, which is, in my opinion, an ideal amount to get a decent themed army. So if I was dropping down to 1,500 points, it would be much more difficult. But at least with 2,000, you've got some points in there to spend on stuff that you need to make it work. Now, visually, I would love to have 60 warriors on the table. 6 groups of 10 warriors. I think that would look awesome on the table. But if I do that, I've hardly got any points left to make the Flayed 1s work, and that's what we're going to need to do. So we're going to come to troops in a minute. First of all, we're going to look at HQ, because that's going to have a massive influence on how we're going to use this army. So next is going to be HQ. Right, so before I introduce the HQ that I'm going to be using, we need to have a chat about the Flayed 1s themselves, or if you're using a different themed army, about the units that you have in your army that are themed. What you need to do basically is look at the units and find out exactly what they can do, which is unique, quirky, which is special, and it is that special feature, special rule that you need to take advantage of. Now, the Flayed 1s have a couple of different special rules. 1, they can infiltrate. 2, they can deep strike. And 3, they can flank. Now, flanking sounds like a fantastic idea, doesn't it? But you can't assault from the flank. We can't augment the reserve roles. You're relying on reserve roles. And if you have your Flayed 1s in reserve, then the rest of the army, bearing in mind you've got so many points in the Flayed 1s, the rest of your army is going to struggle on the table. They're not going to be supported enough. So I don't want to flank them. And indeed, deep striking, again, if I have all 3 units deep striking in, the rest of my army is going to be very weak and vulnerable when it's on the table, waiting for them to come in. And although it's easier for the reserves to come in nowadays on a 3+, it's not guaranteed. I mean, even with augmentation +1 to reserve rolls, it's still not guaranteed. You still can roll a 1. Now, going forward in the future, I do have the option to deep strike maybe 1 unit with the units that I've taken. We'll come to that later. But for now, I want to focus on the other special rule they have, and that's Infiltrate. And this is the rule that I'm going to use to augment the whole of my army. I'm going to infiltrate all 60 Flayed 1s. Going to get as close as I can to my enemy. It's highly unlikely I'm going to be able to infiltrate 12 inches from my enemy, so we're looking at infiltrating 18 inches away. We're going to come back to how we're going to make that work a little bit later in the video, but first of all, let's go back to HQs. So I'm going to introduce my HQ. I'm going to put my tripod down. Okay, so my HQ is going to be Stormlord, Imitate the Stormlord. Now the reason why I'm taking Imatech, there's a couple of reasons actually. First of all, I'm going to need first turn with this army. There's no doubt whatsoever. You'll see a little bit later why I need first turn. But first turn, number one. Now unfortunately I can't steal first turn very easily with orcs. But all the other armies I steal it on a 4+. I've got a good chance of getting first turn, which is fantastic. So he's in there mainly for that reason. Second reason, of course, is night fight. I'm going to be an assault Necron army. Flayed ones are assault. I'm going to make the rest of the army assault too. Let's have it themed as an assault army. You hardly see Necron assault armies around, so that's another nice unique thing to have. So I'm going to make it night fight, so the night fight isn't going to affect me because I'm not going to be shooting, and it's going to give me a little bit of protection. And okay, my flayed ones are going to be infiltrating, going to be up close. Night fight maybe is not going to help a great deal, but it is going to help protect my back flanks, and that is going to need protection, which we're going to come to next. So Imatech, he's obviously a defensive type character. He does have the option to let me deep strike in some flayed ones without scattering. So like I said just a minute ago, once moving forward, once I've been playing with the list, or if I want to have a bit of fun with the list, I do have the option to reserve one group of flayed ones and deep strike them in without scattering using Imatech. So that's another nice reason to have him in the list. Gives me a little bit of a mixture to what I can achieve. Now obviously he is a defensive character, he's going to be at the back, and next up I want to talk about the back there and troops. Okay, troops. So remembering how many points I put into the flayed ones and how many points extra I'm going to need to make the flayed ones work, this is the best that I can come up with, and that is 5 units of 5 warriors. I'd love to have 6. I'd love to have Imatech in a bigger squad, possibly even with Immortals for that 3+ save, but I just don't have the points spare. Now this back flanks here, I have the option of obviously changing as I progress with the list, but this is going to be my starting point. So it'll be Imatech with 1 group of warriors surrounded by 4 groups of warriors. Now bearing in mind that these guys here are playing a very defensive role. The whole focus of the army is going to be on the front flanks basically. So these are at the back, basically just token scoring units. Hopefully they're just going to hang back. There will be advancing of course if they get any 24-inch shots off, but we've got night fight up anyway. Talking of night fight, of course I have Imatech the Stormlords lightning strikes, which could be very, very useful, good fun and nice elements of the list. Like I said, it's not going to be shooty, but at least I will have half a chance of getting first blood with the night fight, taking first turn. So that's another fun element and potentially useful element in the list as well. Obviously totally unreliable. I'd love to have Chronometron Cryptic in there as well. Let me re-roll the night fights. But that's just not going to happen. I just haven't got the points for that. So that is going to be my core flanks of troops. Next up we need to make the flayed ones work, and I'm going to then move on to fast attack, because we have some great options in the fast attack choices. So I'm going to get the fast attack choices out and we'll have a chat about those and how they're going to affect the list. Right, there you go. So now that's my fast attack out, and I have a unit of wraiths and 2 units of scarabs. Now I've had to be very, very careful with the points. I have another unit to show you in a minute, but I had to scrimp on the points quite a bit here actually. So the wraiths, I have just 4 whip coils and a particle caster. I don't normally take the caster, but I had points left over, nowhere else to spend it. And to be fair, I normally use whip coils with every single one, but I just can't afford it in this army. Still, it's still a good force to be reckoned with. So we have some wraiths there. And over this side, although once again I would love to have 2 maximum squads of 10, I just do not have the points. So I had to go for a squad of 7 scarabs and a squad of 8 scarabs. And they're going to work together in conjunction over this side of the table, and then we're going to have the wraiths working over this side of the table. Now the reason why I've gone for fast attack, there's twofold really. One is if my enemy has a different plan to just literally deploying and coming towards me, i.e. they're going to do null deployment, they're going to deep strike in, they're going to concentrate on my troops, for example. I have the fast units that can backtrack. So your wraiths 12 inches, ignore terrain. Your scarabs 12 inches, ignore terrain. They both can potentially assault up to 12 inches. They're very, very fast. So if I do get caught out, I can backtrack if I need to. But the main reason for having these units here is to keep up with the flayed ones. So the flayed ones are infiltrating 18 inches. So these are going to be deployed 6 inches away. So they're going to be a further 6 inches away from these. I'm going to seize the initiative. I'm going to take first turn as best as I can, which then means I'm going to be moving these wraiths up 6 inches. And then I've got the, sorry, not the wraiths, the flayed ones. And then the flayed ones, getting confused now. And then the wraiths have the ability to move up 12 inches. So all of a sudden you're going to have the same case scenario here, 6 inches on the flayed ones, the scarabs are going to move up 12 inches, and then all of a sudden you are going to have 60 flayed ones, 6 wraiths, and whatever, 15-ish scarabs in your face, 12 inches away from you. You're going to say, well, that's great, I can just move forward, rapid fire. Yes, you can. Are you going to be able to take everything out? Highly unlikely. Maybe if you're Tau. But yeah, the idea is to give my flayed ones any chance of surviving. You've got to have multiple targets for my enemy. If I just have the flayed ones there, they're just going to pick flayed one units off one at a time. Now they still may do that, but if they do that, then they've got wraiths to deal with, they've got scarabs to deal with. Scarabs, of course, can pretty much take any vehicle out of the game, excluding flyers. If there's flyers around, then I'm knackered. But to be fair, in my gaming group, I don't tend to play against flyers. That's often maybe one. But I think that's the thing to bear in mind with themed list is, it's not going to be a be and an end all army. It's going to be a fun army. You're going to get some good matchups. You're potentially going to get some really, really bad matchups. It's going to happen. That is the perils of a themed list. But it doesn't take away the fun. And even if you do get tabled, your opponent and yourself, you're both going to have fun. Because you're unlikely your opponent, and if I take this up to my opponent, even if he floors me in turn 2, we're both going to have fun because it's unlikely he would have ever seen a list, featuring 60 flayed ones before. He's going to enjoy playing against it, and you're going to enjoy playing with him as well because, it's going to be different, it's going to be fun. Okay, so what is my last unit? I'll get it out of the case, I'll come back. Okay, here he is, the Destroyer Lord, which I'd like to call my wild card unit. Now, looking at HQs originally, I was very, very interested in taking Big Z and Big O, the Auburn, can't even pronounce, what's his name, Nemesaur, that's it. Big Z, Nemesaur, and Auburn combination, which gives me some good options. The adaptive tactics could be very useful for flayed ones. The ability to deep strike, teleport out of combats, all that goodness, and that was a big consideration for me. And although that sounds like potentially fun, to really, really make this list work, I just had no choice. I had to go for Stormlord. Take the first turn, get the night fight up, etc. But I was very, very interested in having a second HQ unit for this army, and I think the Destroyer Lord. It's going to open up a lot of options for me. So each time I play the army, without actually changing up any units, I'm going to have some options, and that's what the Destroyer Lord is going to give me. So first of all, I of course have the option of popping him in with the flayed ones, which all of a sudden makes that group a lot more threatening. Of course, he has the 2+ save. He's got the weave on there. Mind Shackle Scarabs. I do have the Resurrection Orb on him, which, yes, if I put him with the Wraiths, is a waste of points. But to be fair, that's not the main reason why I'm taking the Destroyer Lord. It is an option, potentially, for the future. But he is going to go in with some Flayed ones. That now gives me a very, very nice unit. 2+ save, the War Sigh. Bearing in mind that these guys here have a good amount of attacks. What is it? 3 attacks, 4 on the charge. They could be nasty, potentially. Of course, they are initiative 2, unfortunately, Necrons. But there you go. Yes, so that certainly gives me a lot of options. And going back to what I said right at the beginning, which is where I do have the option to deep strike 1 unit in. Well, this would be the unit. If I wanted to change up things, I would deep strike this unit in, using, of course, Imhotep's ability for him not to scatter. Deep strike the unit through. That could potentially be a force to be reckoned with, as something just slightly different, a little bit more, you know, basically a bit more fun, really, just to try something else out. But as it stands, yes, he's going to go in with the Flayed ones in the central unit, and then there's going to be a lot of options for your opponent to shoot at. Do you take out that unit there with the Destroyer Lord? Hope you can bypass the 2+ save. You know, do you take the Wraiths out and vulnerable saves? Do you take out that unit? You know, do you go for the Scarabs because you've got Land Raiders? You know, the options are there for your opponent, and whatever he does, it doesn't matter to me, because the whole of this front flanks is disposable. All I need is to keep my troops alive at the back to score. If you're shooting at my Wraiths, fantastic, my Flayed ones are still alive. If you're shooting at my Scarabs, fantastic, my Wraiths, my Flayed ones are still alive. If you're shooting at my Wraiths, yeah, you get the picture. So it doesn't really matter what you're shooting at, because I'm just going to be thinking, okay, they're dead, but hey, I've still got these. So that is the list. That's the idea behind it. I hope that you have enjoyed the list. You've enjoyed my insight to how I built the army. And next up will be a battle report. Now, of course, it's going to take many games to get used to playing this army. So I'm going to show you my very first game in a battle report, and that will be the next video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.